The Director of Information and Public Relations, Federal Ministry of Finance, Mr. Mohamed Manga, in a statement described the fiscal incentives as groundbreaking concessions aimed at revitalizing the industry, including Value-Added Tax Modification Order 2024 and Notice of Tax Incentives for deep offshore oil and gas production, in accordance with the Oil and Gas Companies Order 2024. According to the statement, the VAT Modification Order 2024 introduces exemptions on a range of key energy products and infrastructure, including diesel, feed gas, liquefied petroleum gas, compressed natural gas, electric vehicles, liquefied natural gas infrastructure, clean cooking equipment. This designed to lower the cost of living, restore energy security, and accelerate Nigeria's transition to cleaner energy. The Bank of Industry has announced plans to disburse loans up to 1 billion naira to 140 manufacturing companies across the country under the federal government's 75 billion naira manufacturing sector fund. The managing director of the bank, Mr. Olasupo Olusi, made the disclosure at the bank's inaugural annual public lecture series in Abuja. He explained that the loan is aimed at fostering production, ensuring economic growth, and boost job creation. The director said about 140 manufacturing companies will receive loans of up to 1 billion naira at single-digit interest rates. According to the BOI boss, the bank has disbursed more than 77 billion naira in loans to almost 1,000 MSMEs across various sectors of the economy. Meanwhile, the federal government, through the Ministry of Arts, Culture and Creative Economy, has secured a $200 million financing facility with the African Export-Import Bank to support the growth of the country's creative industries. Minister of Arts, Culture and Creative Economy, Anatu Musawa, disclosed this in a statement through our media aide in Abuja. The minister said the partnership with the African Export-Import Bank is a crucial component of the 2030 vision and one of the ministry's ambitious goals for the creative economy. She emphasized the critical role of global partnerships in driving the country's vision forward, stating that the Destination 2030, Nigeria Everywhere, is the ministry's roadmap to transforming Nigeria into a global cultural powerhouse, while calling on all stakeholders to invest in the vision. President and Chairman of Afrexim Bank, Professor Benedict Orama, announced the partnership in New York, said the $200 million facility is to support the ministry's new initiative for sustainable economic growth. Well, let's get talking now. After 2 years of pulling out of Nigeria, the Emirates Airlines flight has returned to Nigeria. The airline aircraft landed at Muritara Mohammed International Airport, Lagos, on Tuesday. The Emirates stopped coming to Nigeria after, yesterday, I beg your pardon. Its revenue totaled $85 million in August 2022. Was blocked by the Nigerian government over lack of forex. Following several diplomatic meetings between the Nigerian and, of course, the United Arab Emirates governments, the Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Mr. Festus Keyamo, also led a high-level Nigerian delegation to discuss these issues, finalize negotiation ahead of the resumption of the airline's operations in Nigeria. The meeting also settled a new bilateral air service agreement between both nations to ensure stronger and mutually beneficial aviation ties. Well, let's start our conversation today. I'm being joined from Lagos, the Chief Executive Officer, Publisher, Aviators Africa, Mr. Tony Nkachukwu. Thank you so much. It's the first time on the program. We appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yes, I think it's good news. After all the back and forth, at the time there was a press release and they said, no, this is not happening. We are not returning to Nigeria. But finally, after 2 years, we see that this is happening. What does it make? Well, what do you make of it? Economic and trade implications, what this means for Nigeria, of course, for UAE too.
So basically, it's good news. But the truth is that to have to scrutinize every aspect of this resumption is good news for Nigeria. It's good news that finally Emirates is back. It's going to open up a whole lot of vista for travelers, for tourism, for trade, for tour operators, and the likes. However, we need to look at what is the future of the bilateral air service agreement that has been signed. we should not be quick to forget that there are Nigerian airlines that have tried to fly that route in the past. We had Virgin Nigeria, we had Arik, we had one other airline that doesn't come to mind now. Before Air Peace tried to venture into that route, they were all short-lived. So we are still in the early days. I'm hoping that the new bilateral service agreement will be one that gives the Nigerian carriers the latitude to be able to reciprocate, with flights and agreements that are signed.
It's a good way to start the conversation, really, because I was already going there that both countries have already settled for that new bilateral air service agreement to ensure. What is your own understanding of that agreement?
So right now I don't have the details of that agreement. Okay. But I'm hoping that, of course, whatever number of routes or times that Emirates has to fly Nigerian carriers will be allowed that frequency into any of the chosen airports, whether it's Dubai, Sharjah, or Etihad, as I've seen in the bilateral air service agreement. But before now, which was what caused some of the issues, Air Peace was only allowed to Sharjah, and Air Peace wanted to fly to Dubai, but they were given a slot in Sharjah. And then, of course, with the past minister, Hadi Sirika, he tried and he got slots for Air Peace into Dubai. So there was a whole lot of back and forth. There was a lot of diplomatic roles. I'm hoping that this will now be streamlined to make it easy for Nigerian carriers to be able to fly to any of the chosen destination or airports according to the bilateral air service agreement. But I'm saying that there is more to that than meets the eye. I mean, we have always had issues with our BASA agreements. I'm hoping that now that we are back to the table on the drawing table with Dubai or with Emirates, I'm hoping that it's going to be a win-win for both Emirates and Nigerian carriers that have intention to fly to that route.
And how competitive would you also see that business? Because the competition is in that market. I'm looking at how attractive, because now other airlines can also fly that route. I guess so. So what do you think about the competition in the entire space?
So the competition is very rife. Just like I've mentioned, Virgin Nigeria tried. It left that route after 3 months. Arik tried, I think, just about 3 months as well. And then another carrier tried. To have 3 to 4 carriers trying to apply that route, but they were all short-lived. And we must begin to learn from history so that we don't repeat mistakes of the past. Okay? That is a very competitive market. That is a very monopolistic market. And then if we must make sure that our carriers go to that destination, then it must be a win-win. That is what reciprocity is all about. Not one carrier trying to muscle out the other or trying to bend, the rules to favor another carrier. These are some of the challenges to face when it comes to aeropolitics. So basically, just like I said, is in the early days, we'll wait and see which of the Nigerian carriers will now have the gusto to say, okay, I'm ready to begin to operate. I mean, Air Peace tried. Air Peace has been a little bit quiet, with this whole Emirates coming back, but they had one that have ventured. Let's see the appetite that Nigerian carriers will have to now reciprocate this new BASA agreements, and then after some few months down the line, we can come back and then, cross-check notes and see how much they fared.
It just takes me back to the Nigerian air issue. We seem not to be hearing anything about that anymore. Honestly, as an expert in the sector, I like your views with regards to that. Many have talked about the positives and negatives of the Nigerian air project. And I think the minister was saying he was going to look at all of the agreements and all of that again. What is your reaction to that? How have you reacted to it even before now?
So basically, it was dead on arrival. Great idea. Bad implementation. So great idea, meaning, it was time for a country as big as ours. We needed a carrier, that can compete favorably, Again, for us to be able to reciprocate this BASA agreement, because Nigeria have over 70-something BASA agreements that are just lying fallow. Why? Because we don't have the carriers in Nigeria to reciprocate on these flights, okay? Air Peace started, London Gatwick We've had that bastard for a long time. No carrier to reciprocate. Same with Dubai. It's not like now that they are signing a new BASA agreement. There has always been a BASA agreement between Nigeria and Dubai, or UAE rather. But the minister is trying to make sure that it's streamlined and it's more a win-win. So Nigerian Air was a good idea for us to have a carrier that can, compete. However, the implementation and how the former minister went about it was wrong from beginning, because you cannot sell out our national carrier to an airline, Ethiopian Airlines as it were, as the majority shareholder. Okay, and then of course the domestic carriers were going to be shortchanged in the process, which is why they went to court, and then of course we all know how it ended. Simply put, it was a good idea. I dare say that there is still space for Nigeria to have a national carrier, with the advantage that we have to us. With over 200 million people, our traveling appetite is great. 80% of national foreign carriers are the ones that are benefiting from Africa as a whole, because we can't kind of leverage, the opportunity. So Nigeria needs that national carrier. Having said that, with a caveat, we have to make sure that we do our homework right before we can venture to talk about national carrier. I often say when I talk to stakeholders that let's major let's take time on the smaller things first, like building infrastructure, upgrading our equipment, making sure airport is standard. These are basic things that we need to do before we now start building on saying we need to have a national carrier. Because if you carry a national carrier and put on existing infrastructures we have right now, it's going to collapse on them. And that's what they were doing. So it was just a good wishful thinking that we should have a national carrier. However, the implementation and the reality on ground was that Nigeria was not ripe to have a national carrier.
So a lot needs to be put in place before that is done. Logistic issues, all the challenges at the Nigerian airport. Before now, we've been talking about aviation fuel issues. I think that is being addressed one way or the other now, but the fares are still very high. Forex scarcity is on one side. How are you going to react to some of these challenges, if I can put them that way?
So basically, the aviation sector is an integral part of the economy of Nigeria. So whatever is affecting the manufacturing sector or the telecom sector also has, aviation sector also suffers some of this. And one major part is Forex. The aviation sector is dollar denominated. Most of the activities with what they do, the charges, the maintenance, the procurement, all dollar denominated, and they sell their tickets in Naira. So from get-go, anybody that is running an airline now is, honestly, I don't know how they are surviving, because imagine you do every transaction in dollars, then you come and sell your tickets in Naira. Already from get-go, how are you going to survive? So people are clamoring for ticket prices to come down, but the operating environment is still high. Well, the Jet A fuel accounts for over 60% of operational costs for airlines. Look at where we are with fuel, the NNPC issue, the forest issue. So a lot needs to be done. And I keep on hampering that any opportunity I get, that the aviation sector is a socioeconomic catalyzer. It catalyzes every other sector. We need to begin to holistically look at the aviation sector to make sure we get it right, so that we can be able to make sure that it helps the economy, the MSMEs, to kick off. Because without people going by air and transacting, and for example, I'll give you a typical example. For a long time now, the aviation industry has not grown in Nigeria, has not grown in numbers. It's still 10% of Nigerians that travel by air for over a long time. So you can see that we're in an elastic period where we are not really increasing because of some of the fundamental issues that I've mentioned now. So unless the Nigerian government begins to look at it holistically and tackle the issues as it were, we are going to be in for a long ride.
I like that. I like that. Hit it directly. The issues needs to be sorted. Now, many still say that we are yet to even get back to those pre-COVID days where people used to travel so much like before. What is your outlook for the entire sector and expected level of profit for business owners? At least they would make profit no matter how it goes.
So they are not making profit, I can tell you for a fact. I mean, if you check the average disposable income of an average Nigerian, can a Nigerian afford to travel to Lagos, Abuja at least twice in a month from their salary? I mean, you travel, I'm sure you can also understand that everybody has cut their spending accounts because of how expensive these things are. Okay, so, and the airlines, because the aviation sector is a regulated sector, you cannot compromise on safety. So they are grappling with making sure they don't compromise safety and try to stay in business with the harsh environment they are in. It's a Herculean task. So the airlines are not making money. What they need, what the airlines need, is a favorable environment to operate. That is all the government can give them. And I'm hoping that with what the minister is doing in trying to make sure he sanitizes the industry, I'm hoping that in no distant time, that favorable environment that the airline operators so crave, they'll begin to see it. But I'm not promising anybody that it's going to be very soon, because the sector is already in deficit. We need some catching up to do in various areas. In taxes, the airlines are multitasked. In infrastructural upgrade, our airports are not yet as international as they be, so that they have seamless facilitation. They facilitate the telecommunication, the aeronautic telecommunication. There's a whole lot. But I dare say that if there is a will, then we can begin to tackle these issues. And I think the minister has the gusto to begin to solve this, but it remains to be seen.
I'm enjoying this conversation, but almost finally, before I let you go, when we talk about creating an enabling environment, talking about government and all of that, are we talking about funding? Are we talking about giving subsidies? Are we talking about what can government do? Because I remember that speaking to the spokesperson of the airline operators, Professor Obiora, and he was talking about the kind of support they wanted from government, that not only that they are asked, but what sort of support do you think would help the aviation sector stabilize better than it is now? Let's have some specifics.
So basically, from my side, I don't think the support should be funding, because they've tried to give a subvention to airlines in the past, way back in 2012 or thereabouts, and then some of the airline operators diverted the funds, and we never saw any improvement. So I'm not calling for that kind of. The support that I am calling for is support around policies. Okay, policies that will help the airline operators to operate favorably, because it rises and falls on policy. I can come with just one policy now, okay, for your TV station that might not be favorable for you, and you're going to shut down. But I can come with just one policy that will give you the enabling environment to operate and be profitable at it. So what the airlines need actually is a support, the favorable environment around policy, because the government are the ones taxing this airline. I'm just taking one bit of it. So there is multi-taxation. So the Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority will tax the airlines. Federal Authority of Nigeria will have passenger charge. Nigeria Airspace Management Authority have their taxes. This shouldn't be. There should just be a formulation where you just tax the airline, have one line of taxation. Okay? So some of these policies that are existing are kind of stifling the industry. And of course, because Nigeria does not have general aviation, which also is around policy, to allow for some smaller forms of aircraft to operate into secondary airports that can boost capacity and create jobs, we are still at that level where it's only the big aircraft will fly to Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, whereas we have over 72 aerodromes in Nigeria. So if we have something like Kenya, where we have bush flying, agricultural flying, and aerial displays with smaller aircraft, such policies can kind of boost the sector and then create jobs. So again, the support that the sector so needs is mostly around policy formulation that is not injurious to airline operators, but is very favorable for them to operate it.
Very, very interesting conversation, I must say that. I must thank you so much. Before you go, just in 1 minute, let me put you a bit on the spot. How would you assess the minister's performance since he's been in office? Yes, I just like your views around that.
So the minister has been very visible in trying to fix the issues that are before him, from going to talk with the aircraft manufacturers, Airbus, Boeing, from trying to work on the Cape Town Convention to allow for airline operators to be able to dry lease, because before now they were not dry leasing because some people, flouted the Cape Town Convention, so lessors were not leasing anymore. And then of course he's looking at concessioning of the airport. There are a whole lot of moving parts. But if you ask me, I would like the minister to kind of focus on one or two major points in his tenure and so, because if you are trying to grapple, because we've seen other ministers do that, you are trying to do national carrier, airport, before you know it, you might not have achieved anything in the long run. So the minister is working. He has touched a whole lot of touch points. Okay, I mean, one is also the Emirates that is back. I'm hoping that he can keep the momentum and make sure that we can tick the boxes and see some of this project to completion during his tenure.
I must thank you so much, Mr. Tony Okachukwu, who is the Chief Executive Officer, Publisher, Aviators Africa. Thank you so much. We appreciate this. Hope to see you soon again on the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Right there. Well, interesting conversation, I must say there. But coming up next on the show, we would be analyzing President Bola Tinubu's Independence Day speech. Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of Dignity Finance and Investments Limited, Dr. Chijioke Ikechukwu, will be my guest after this break. Don't go away. This is Business Nigeria with Tolulope Ogunjobi.